Hello everyone, this is Brian Germain, and I'm in a hot air balloon in Hawaii, more specifically Maui. Look at this. So remember, the arrow points north. That will matter to everyone, but the ocean is to my right. So I'd like to land by the beach. What do you say? First, I'd like the idea of exploring all of those craters. Wow. Okay, well, let's check the hacky sack behind me on the bottom right of the rig. Cutaway handle, make sure that's good. Reserve ripcords in there, seated properly. Chest strap looks like it's routed properly. And I've got the excess tucked away. Same with my leg straps. All looking good. All right. I am ready. So before a jump like this, where you can calm down, I think it's a good idea to just, find your zen. Don't take an hour. But take a breath. And then 3, 2, 1, see ya. Alright, altitude says 5.6. I'm going to reset. Yep. So I did a reset on my right hand on the joystick. There's a button that allows me to reset the view. Wow, look at that. I don't want to pull really low. Oh my gosh, that is just incredible. Waving off even though I'm on a solo jump. Well, sometimes you have trouble reaching the invisible bottom of container handle for deploying your pilot chute. That looks good. Altitude 2.3, resetting the altimeter. It did change when I pushed that button because this is terrain. It's complicated. So that looks like some sort of an observatory, maybe? Could be. So we could do jumps here and land. I see a parking lot that we could land in if we wanted to sort of play around in the volcano. I also like the idea of flying some of these steep valleys that the lava and water has carved out over the years. We can't even grasp, right? I mean, when we say all the years, it's a lot of years. Wow, look at that. Oh, man. Breathe it in. This is your planet. This is planet Earth. All right, so I think we're just about ready for our run here. I'm going to fly to where I see a nice little canyon down that way, and I'm going to follow that canyon. So I'm going to get over the top of it. Looks like it's pretty steep starting right about there. I think that's flat. So you could probably land there if you wanted to, but I'm going to do a speed flying run. So let's get on the fronts a little bit. Starting to steepen it up, which actually reduces my ground speed somewhat when I get really deep into it. Right now I'm going straight down. Here we go. There's a lot of really nice grooves. Oh, this is going to be fun. Jeez. See, when you're in 3D like this, right, when I turn my head, I actually feel like I'm there, like even more. Because I've turned. If I do a 360 and under canopy, that shows that view, but not the same way as me turning my head does. It adds a layer of realism that is just astounding. So cool. All right. Well, I don't want to get too brave with the terrain following yet, because I know I've got a long way to go. But I do believe that if I continue to apply the principles of mountain flying, if you look at an object that's in front of you, kind of roughly, the glide ratio of my parachute is like that. So if I see that point dropping, that means I'm going to go past it, which means I'm golden. But if I get down into the terrain, let's say I do a 360, and now I'm down here, things look a little different, don't they? So now when I look out there, that's where I'm going to. Down here is where my canopy naturally glides to, more or less. But what if I was to go to a little bit of rear risers here? In some cases, you would use brakes. If you had a tailwind, you would flatten your glide, and you can improve how far you can go. So I can get a little bit more courageous in taking it down into the terrain based on what I just saw. So now I'm going to do a little what they call speed riding. Bring it down into the hill and enjoy the contours. And I happen to know that these contours get even more interesting as I get further along. Because I just did this and the recording failed, so if I look like I know where I'm going, it's because I know where I'm going. That's one of the things I try to do for you guys in the group flights when we meet up on Wednesday evenings, most of the time anyway. Oh, look at that. That looks like fun. Let's cut it around this way. Is that if I've flown the terrain at least a little bit, it gives you guys a more interesting, course to follow. And although, we don't really know what's possible with this technology yet, it seems to me that there's a lot more possible than what we've done so far. So I'm riding up out of it. So I can actually get on front risers where it triggers, turn my toggles red, which steepens my glide ratio, putting more weight in the front of the parachute, basically. So the front risers on a parachute go to the A and B lines, which pulls down on about 25% of the parachute. The whole leading edge there sort of gains weight. So I have the capability to take this a little deeper with those front risers. See that? And that makes it really fun. I love this. Then he wonders, can I make it around this corner? Well, yes, I can. Now, if I need to flatten it out, I can, right? On rear risers is the way we would do it in the real world on an actual parachute, unless we had a tailwind. But if I get too deep in it, let's say I get way down here in this gully and I start getting nervous, I would go to rear risers if I was on a skydiving wing. And I'd get small because reducing body drag changes the balance of power of the parachute's drag value and your body's drag. And if you, as the suspended load, have less drag, then you sort of drift forward a little bit relative to the canopy itself. I'm going to flatten the glide right now by getting small and going to those rears. It's about 65% of the range is what we figured. So in other words, if 100% of the rear risers is a stall, where the parachute kind of goes away on you, well, when you lift it up just a little bit and you fine-tune that spot, and you flatten out that glide, a little bit more than halfway down to the stall point. Yeah, I don't want to go down in that hole. It'd be a long walk. And for those of you who are wondering, if you know that the capability does exist within this simulator, that I can add power, like a powered paraglider, if you're wondering if I've been cheating, and the answer is no, I have not. I'm flying this pure physics. And the glide ratio I have tested is pretty similar to a skydiving wing, although the toggle response in terms of the glide ratio improvement is not the same, right? Deep brakes for a tailwind would improve the glide on a skydiving parachute, but rear risers will improve your glide ratio in most cases. Wow, this is beautiful terrain. Somewhere a little more than halfway down, if you got no wind at all, or even a little bit of a headwind, you might choose to get on those rear risers. All right, I think I've got a pretty good clean spot here where I can take it down. Let's take it down into here. Yeah. was like, I happen to know this is a really cool canyon. Can you imagine the forces? Right? It wasn't just rain. It was Pele. It was the fire-breathing earth that created these mountains. Wow. How about that, right? So you can imagine, on a two-dimensional screen, that looks pretty cool. But for me, the fact that I can turn my head makes this feel that much more real. Now, I don't know if I'm going to need power here, but when in doubt, right, there's nothing more useless than altitude above you. So I'm going to try to climb my way up to a higher altitude and float my way up the highest, straightest path, because I don't know if it's going to flatten out up ahead. And I do not wish to land up here, because my objective is to land down there on the beach with the wahinis. There's probably a luau waiting for me. I'm going to take a straight path here, right towards the edge of this one. And I'm going to flatten the glide as much as possible. I know it would be more exciting if I was flying fast and steep and deep in the canyon, but I do want to survive. All right, I'm bringing it around to the edge, taking a straight line. I think I can make this. I think I can make it to the ocean. Cool. Can you imagine, right? If you were really here. I mean, there's a part of you that would be terrified. And there's a part of you that would be in, oh my God, I'm Superman kind of mode. And I think those two kind of talk to each other in our lives. We have the ability to be wild. Hey, look, there's a road. We can be wild and we can be chill, right? You can be the wise old conservative pilot, and from time to time you pull out your ninja skills and you optimize based on years of experience, but you don't want to rely on that. You don't want to rely on your full attention all the time. All right, let's take a crosswind landing right up here. There we are. We can go down to the ocean and go for a swim. Wow. Yeah, that's a really cool one. I do recommend flying this mountain. It is I have observed that having one log won't burn if you work at it. But if you have two or more, the heat from the two sources feed off of each other. It builds an interactive energy. They support each other. If only there was some human principle that was relevant. If only we could observe each other's needs and lend a helping hand to each other, to band together. It's the warmth that we create together that makes this journey possible. Planet Earth is too cold to not light a fire amongst us together. A fire of mutual support. If we're to bring the breath of life back into our friendships again, an eager, hopeful expectation that love will lead to better. Let's remember our oneness. We each bring to the fire things of value. So I say, breathe on it. Remember that the orientation of the logs can be modified. If one log is, for instance, doing more of the work, well, balance it, you know? If one log is starving the other one of oxygen, find a way to give it air. The fire will thank you. And so, in our lives, in our relationships, in our framing of our experience, your life is not a certainty in its current structures. You have the ability to maneuver the situation, to manipulate the variables and the angles, to change your perspective on things, to explore mutual benefit. We work together in our highest insight state of mind, eager and hopeful and supportive. Loving, gentle heading changes. Smooth moves, gentle wide turns. But no doubt, a manipulation, a change. A choice of will. As the conscious being in the house, you have authority. The rocks have less of a voice in what happens on this earth. The trees move things, but slowly. The birds just watch and laugh. And the human beings make things, change things, affect things, and observe things. And some of the things that we observe in our past experience, our past models and ways of being, we realize are not our future ways. And in a brilliant act of forgiveness and radical acceptance, we let it go and say, wow, that's how we used to do it back in the olden days. Because we're on our way to the newen days. The new way to live is based in balance. It's based in flow. It's based in happiness, authentic human well-being. That's the new currency. Is it humanitarian? Is this lifestyle serving you? This job, this place, these people? Of course, people are to be served. That's what the love does. We serve each other, we support each other. None above the other. The old model of the human experience was above and below. And down on the surface of the earth, the humans believed in above and below. They believed in kings and courts and commoners. And these ideas rang true in certain places still. But for the vast majority, this model doesn't serve. It separates us. And it disempowers us. And it severs our connection to our feeling of worthiness as a human being. Every human deserves to feel special in the eyes of the universe, worthy within their own minds. Pure, holy, and sacred as the day you were born. We must remember that no one is above another in their purity and their deservingness of good treatment. As we release the judgmental programs that we have learned, the behavior patterns, the thought processes that we've been taught through example, and through our own twisted anger, we have experienced what a closed heart can feel like before we realize that all are worthy, all are holy. Before you realize that equality is the truth and that no one can be treated less than humanely. That was the old way. And the new way is way more fun. But the old way will reoccur in your mind. Programming started really early. The thought patterns associated with culture and expectation of what a person will be based on what they look like, based on their voice, their language, their culture, and their monetary status. We were so shallow as to judge another human being based on these illusions. If you blindfold your horse and she runs into a tree, don't blame her. That was you, that was me. Every time we slip into the illusion that we're separate. And as we merge into oneness and expand out what that means, and we quiet our minds such that we may listen. If we so choose, we may have conversations with infinite intelligence. You may ask, and then you may listen to the silence with your own meditation. To have the courage to face the feistiness of silence that crawls back in again from the crack of least resistance with something that's more important than you sitting here in silence. The lively human mind is active. However, it can be trained and civilized. It can be made in congruence with the oneness that is true. If the illusion is seen through, and the masks come off, and you see that everyone on the stage was you, you awaken from the insanity into what you used to think of as insanity. But if it's true, there's nothing insane about it. It's what it is. It is what it is.